didn't start today. The whole vision didn't start today. We found out that Africans are not interested in other African destinations. 80% of all the aviation traffic in Africa are carried by non-African carriers. Only 20% are carried by African airlines. That's why South African Airlines is having problems. That's why Kenya Airways is having problems. Only one profitable airline on a continental level. Okay, Africa World is also profitable. But in Africa, 80% of the traffic is out of Africa. We have 1.2 billion people, but we don't get up to 63 million visitors. We get between 50 to 73 million people. It's a big problem for Africa, and you see quite a lot of people in Africa prefer to travel outside Africa, to Europe, to Middle East, to Americas, to different places, but not many Africans travel within Africa. For Africa to grow, for tourism to thrive in Africa, with a population of 1.2 billion people, we need a minimum of 120 million Africans traveling within Africa. For this to happen, we have to sell Africa to Africans. We need Africans to travel within Africa. We need to put life behind the visions of Africa. Why do Africans travel out of Africa? Africans travel because they've been sold images of fantastic beaches, of a wonderful shopping environment, forgetting the fact that the best beaches in the world are found in Africa. That the best, there is more shopping, more square meters in South Africa than the whole Central Europe put together. So if what you're looking for is to shop, you can shop enough in Africa. We have more square meters of shopping space in South Africa than the whole of Europe, Central Europe put together. The beaches of Africa are out of this world. And we also have things you can't get outside of Africa. You can't get the super waterfalls, the wildlife experience. You can't even get the cultures and the festivals of Africa. So what we are trying to do is to sell Africa to Africans. Only Africans can do that. I want to quote Frederick Doll. I said, we are the people we are waiting for. Nobody is coming to do that for us. We have to do it ourselves. So the Wonders of Africa project is to sell the wonderful experience, the wonderful sceneries, the wonderful cultures of Africa to Africans first. I'm not saying non-Africans cannot buy the idea. They can join us. But there are 1.2 billion people in Africa. We don't need grants. We can make more money from tourism within ourselves than we can get from outsiders. The 63 million people that we have visit Africa today is less than the number of tourists that France. France is a very small country. Land-wise, population-wise, there are like 6 African nations that have more people than France. So how does one country get more tourists than the whole of Africa put together? It's not right. So we don't wait for anybody to do it. We have to do it ourselves. There has to be a coalition of the willing who comes together to be able to change this narrative, to get Africans to love Africa. If you ask most Africans, where do you want to spend your holiday? They will name somewhere in Europe.
Yeah.
And they will name somewhere in Middle East. I go there too. But I have traveled around Africa. I have never seen the kind of beaches I see in Africa anywhere else in the world. I've never felt the kind of excitement I get when I'm in Africa. I don't get racism in Africa. Yeah, you still see that some countries prefer white tourists to black tourists, but you still see a lot of that. That's a business decision anyway. They think the foreign tourists will spend more, but I do know that we do spend more than them. But we have to change the story. When we change the story, tell people there are beautiful places in Africa. Let people know about the mountains in Africa. Let people know about the tallest structures that you have in Africa. Let people know about the history of Africa. about quite a lot of things that you cannot see anywhere else in the world. And that's our job. Nobody's coming to do that for us. So the Wonders of Africa is an attempt by travel professionals to change the narrative, to change the business structure. Because tourism in Africa was started by non-Africans. They started doing tourism into Africa as a way. When Thomas Cook started the tours to Egypt, he was doing it for the consumption of British tourists and the rest of them. But today, this is an opportunity for us to take control of the marketing of Africa, and we'll change the structure of the business. Prior to today, every attempt was to sell Africa to non-Africans. Everybody pumps in marketing budget into trade shows outside Africa. There are 1.2 billion people in Africa. The middle class in Africa is approaching more than 100 million people. This is a huge resource. All these foreign airlines that fly into Africa, who do they carry? They are carrying Africans. They are making money from Africans. And you could see the only profitable African airline is the one that